The opinions expressed are those of the host. The material is for informational purposes only. It does not constitute investment advice, and it is not intended as an endorsement for any specific investment. Visit CrestmontPW.com for more details.
Welcome to the Ascent. This is Sam McGee with Crestmont Private Wealth. We have offices in Houston, Texas, and Boerne, Texas. And it's been a long time since I've been on the show. Thank you, Alec Walker, for being the host the last month. Thank you so much. He's here with us today, though.
Yeah, happy to step in. We provided some year-end kind of recaps on planning at the end of the year, some tax planning updates, the new law changes headed into 2026, and also touching on the markets, which we've had a couple volatile days here recently, but today we're going to be talking about something a little different.
Yeah, and before we do that, I want to share a little bit about who we are and what we do, because honestly, we do so much programming on here and different topics that we forget to tell people that. At Crestmont Private Wealth, we have two offices, one in Houston, one in Boerne, Texas, out in the Hill Country, not too far from San Antonio, for those that don't know that. And we provide very comprehensive wealth management services, including investment management for high net worth individuals and high earners. Now, that's a very subjective term. If you're interested in learning more about services and you think you might be a fit, just go to our website at CrestmontPW.com. There's a little link there where you can set up a consultation, and there's no obligation to do so. Okay, with that out of the way, Alec, we've had a really interesting week, developing this survivor's guide. Give a little bit of thought behind the why. You came up with this, and I know this was in response to a lot of client meetings that you do as our director of financial planning, but talk a little bit about the why first.
Yeah, so the why it came up, this was something we talked about this week during our monthly financial planning team meeting. And I've had a few conversations with clients over the last 6 months or so. I've thought about it, been thinking about it, and we've obviously, we've dealt with clients who've passed away, unfortunately, and helping the surviving spouse through the aftermath of handling not only the personal and emotional and family challenges that come with that, but also the financial challenges and keeping your financial life afloat from basic things like paying the bills and where do I go to access these things. And, obviously when we've got very strong relationships with clients, we're in a position, and we've built that foundation, we've built that trust. We're in a position where we can help them with probably 90% of the things, but still beyond that, there's probably a lot of the details that it's not really our position to be in, such as something as basic as, hey, where are my passwords to access all of these different accounts? What the survivor's guide is something that we're actually going to be developing internally as a team and potentially with our board this first half of this year, with the hope to roll it out in the second half, is a template and a guideline that we can work with through our clients, kind of combining that estate planning and that financial planning into one, so that no matter what happens, that spouse that is left to carry on the burden is going to feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, and I just think about different dynamics of relationships where, opposites attract, and there's a reason people, stay married for 30, 40, 50 years, and you develop habits, and, usually there's a breadwinner, or maybe there's two breadwinners, but there's always somebody who seems to lead the charge on bill paying and the finances and those sorts of things. And it's not like both spouses always have access to or even know what to pay and when and how to do it, what time of year. I mean, I just can't imagine, using an example of a company, if somebody threw me the keys to somebody else's company right now and said, figure it out. I mean, that would be incredibly overwhelming. And if you think about your family finance as almost like an operating business, which it kind of technically is.
You've got assets, you got liabilities, you got inflows, you've got outflows.
Yeah. And I mean, and then you add on to the complexity of, say you have kids and, what kind of medicine kids take or what appointments they have. And so I don't want to diminish one role of one, spouse over the other. There's just so many things. And so, spending the time to talk with our clients about this and then talking with our board over the summer to really refine this into something that could be useful is the goal. Mm-hmm. So Alec, what sort of things, what kind of categories of things are you hoping to kind of get in there?
Yeah, this guide would be a living, breathing document that you could update as your situation changes that's separate from your estate plan. So, hopefully clients that have been with us, we've made sure that their wills and trusts are up to date, and that's going to handle, how are things being transferred upon death based on your wishes. But there's other things in the guide that's more of kind of the practical, kind of the playbook. So if you think of things, it's who to call. If we're the financial advisor, it's our contact information. Maybe it's an estate planning attorney, a CPA, the executor of the trust, key contacts. And then from there, maybe it's just an overview of accounts and assets, where they are, how do you access them. But even beyond that, I can even think, for myself personally, Kelsey and I, we have all of our financial accounts, are through Charles Schwab, but there's probably accounts that she doesn't, like our 401k is held somewhere different. A life insurance policy, she may not know exactly where that is. So documenting all of where all these other moving pieces that you may need to account for and be aware of so that you can make sure they're flowing properly per the estate plan instructions.
Sure. And I think when we run into these situations, which is inevitable, a client passes, usually it's not at the same time. One spouse passes, or maybe it's their parent or a child. These things happen. That's life. Having that preparedness also allows the family to grieve and all the other things that come with it. It's kind of a morbid topic, but death is a very stressful event for people to handle because you got to come up with a eulogy. You got to work with a funeral director. You've got to get a death certificate. You got all these things that you're doing. And at the same time, the electricity bill is due and a credit card needs to be reattached to an account and this and that. And so if we can ease that burden somehow, that's the goal, right? It's not that the wealth advisor is going to be doing all these things. It's preparing the client for that eventuality because we're all going to die. I haven't found a youth yet. So,
yeah, as Kelsey always calls it, it's kind of the mental load. And so it's documenting the mental load into a piece of paper that each spouse has access to know where everything is and how to handle it. And it could be, one spouse, may have 95% of it, or it could be kind of 50-50. And it's just combining that so that everybody knows where everything is and can handle it through that difficult life transition.
So Alec, when I think about this, just from the perspective of clients we work with, I think that's fair. Maybe talk a little bit about how we use e-money and, a vault, an electronic vault, and what that that looks like and where that could be held.
Yeah, if you're not as consolidated or organized, the e-money vault and portal is a great way of how we get our clients organized. We add accounts, either enter them manually or hopefully we're linking them up electronically so we have updated balances. That could be a great place to at least get started, to where you have access to everything in one place visually. Maybe you don't have all the details, but at least, the surviving spouse would know, oh, hey, we have this account here at Charles Schwab or this account here at our 401k provider that I need to access. So that's a great place to get started. And then the vault is a secure vault that you can have private folders that only you and your spouse can access through the vault, or a shared folder that you give our team ability to access as well. That's ideally where, once the survivor's guide is in place and it's filled out, you would be able to have a copy stored there in either your shared or private documents folder.
All right. So I've got something funny to add here. So everyone on this just heard my phone going to 10% and also a text message going through, right? Well, that just kind of shows how much of our life is digital now. So here I am, I've texted my 5 most habitual texters to not text me. And of course they do, right? And during our broadcast. Well, what about getting into devices and phones and social media and all that stuff? And, just think about that. If you're listening to this right now, how much your life centers around digital experience and how necessary it would be for your loved ones to know how to handle that in the digital age. Alec, is that fair? I mean, that was pretty well timed blunder there.
That was the biggest piece that I wanted to make sure we have a dedicated section for in this guide. Because like I said, if it's a client that's working with us, we're going to have 90 to 100% of their where everything is.
Sure.
But we can't access it. If it's not at Charles Schwab and we're not managing it, we can't access it. So making sure that passwords and access is, stored in a secure location and the surviving spouse knows where to get to it. I started looking at that. That was the first thing I did after our call, was getting into my password keeper that we use, where I have all of our passwords stored, and figuring out, okay, how can I set up Kelsey as an emergency person to be able to access this, or what can I share with her? Because that's just such an important piece to be able to transition.
So Alec, talk us through a little bit about the unfortunate side of wealth management and a client dying, because I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe do-it-yourselfers that don't have an advisor, or they don't have a real tight relationship with their wealth management team, and maybe it's more of a self-directed or like a brokerage type relationship. I mean, what does it look like at Crestmont, unfortunately, when somebody dies? Like, what are the things that you do with your team to help the family through transition on account level, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So, obviously the first thing we're doing is communicating. We're relaying that information to the custodian, which in our case is Charles Schwab, because there's certain processes that they have to start on their end when somebody has passed away as an account holder, whether it's a retirement account or a joint investment account where one of the account holders passes away. So we're notifying them and then communicating and really coordinating with the client to go through all the steps. And the biggest thing I share with them is it's going to take a while. There's processes that have to be followed. It's not always immediate, but we're going to help guide you through these steps and, just caution them, be patient. So we're helping, maybe handle death certificates, obtain trust and legal documents. Sometimes those have to get notarized through the county, through the courthouses. And so we're providing the steps and process to open any new accounts and transition, based on the terms of the wills and trusts that the client's estate plan provided.
Well, that's great. And Alec, thank you for joining today to impart a little wisdom about some of the things we're doing here at Crestmont, and really just to open the eyes of listeners, to really think about, hey, am I well prepared in the event that something happens to me? Because it's not, unfortunately, if, it is when, and being well prepared is probably the best thing you can do for your family. A little bit of a tough subject today, but hopefully very informative to our listeners, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend. God bless.